Should we move on to information control? So the point of information control, or like the hallmarks of information control, are deception, distortion of information, and withholding or controlling access to information. Actually, a lot of the things on this list are applicable. The first one that I see that's applicable is minimizing or discouraging access to non-cult sources of information. In particular, critical information, which we had a name for. It was spiritual pornography.
Yep.
And we were not to look at it.
No.
And also former members. Once people fell away, you stayed away from them.
Yeah, they were excommunicated, right?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. Yes, they were off limits, and you would get in big stinking trouble.
Which is true.
Which is interesting too, because that goes back into like behavior control, who you aren't allowed to spend time with, and like it's this whole. There's so many. They all overlap.
Yep,
and that's what makes it powerful.
It's true.
Yeah.
And like thinking about it now, it's just crazy. We were told not to read or watch any media that was critical of the church. Why do you, like, what was the reasoning that was given to you for that? Do you remember?
Honestly, I'm sure there was a scripture about Satan getting a foothold or something like that, but
probably, yeah.
Yeah. But I just remember like it's lies. It wasn't, but I don't remember being framed like it's going to make you struggle. Like, or it's going to make you fall away. It was like, it's not true.
It's a waste of your time.
Yes. Like, just don't acknowledge it. But not like, yeah, don't. It was like, do not watch this. This is coming out. This is what they're going to say. This is how they're lying. Now you don't need to see it anymore because I've already told you what you think about it.
Exactly.
And I was like,
it's
cool.
True.
When's it on?
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I think there's some VHS tapes somewhere that have all those recorded. So I'm like, can't just watch it once. What about you?
It was the same thing. It wasn't really like there was a little bit of why would you risk? Why would you risk letting some liar instill doubt in your mind? That's just going to cause you trouble. But so there was a little bit of that, but most of it was exactly what you said. It was like they just ran interference.
Yeah.
And like it was spun more as these people are at it again. Persecution proves that we're righteous.
Yes.
And we're not going to waste our time listening to them.
Right. Except for we are going to spend a whole Sunday sermon or Wednesday talking about it. Yes.
About why they're wrong and how they're manipulating the media and
and I'm like, dude, just come out and say Kip's kids are going to private school. Just say it. Like, and I found somewhere I found this document that we can talk about another time, but about like the houses that people owned, leadership owned, not one house, multiple houses. And it's like, and it's funny because I'm like, at the point that how far in we had been drawn, I don't even think that I would have cared. That wouldn't have been like a make or break situation for me because I wanted to go to heaven.
Yes, and I was so numb to it. Like, I don't think I knew about multiple houses, but I was certainly in the homes of leaders.
Gosh.
And thinking about that now, I'm like, who did these people think they were?
Right.
Taking our money to live in these huge, expensive, beautifully, expensively decorated homes.
Yes. I know.
And I just bought into it.
An honor to be invited.
It was. And the excuse was they had to live in a certain place in a certain kind of house and drive a certain car so they could be around the sharp people. to
Yes,
bring
and you
them
want to
into
be the
church.
person who other people want to be.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm fine with myself right now. I know who I don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason I was on the weekend struggling list the whole time.
Yes, it's true.
It's kind of a
I was
bummer.
right there with you.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yes. And I'm like, even just the deception, like deliberately withholding information, distorting information, and lying. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you never were told the truth. They never told you when you go through the sin study, they're writing it down, or just when you confess anything, and they're sending a list up the chain of command. You're never told that. And when accusations come out, they laugh
Mm-hmm.
it off and acted like it was ridiculous, but it was absolutely true.
Yes.
And I'm like, they just lied about so many things, about like how many baptisms there were and growth,
Mm-hmm.
and like they would save baptisms up so that it could look like a huge Sunday, or it has to fit in at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, and all of this
or
stuff.
during a conference.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's like, it was all a lie. It was all a
They
lie.
lied about how our money was being spent. Like
Absolutely.
all of it.
Yes, they lied about why certain people weren't in positions of leadership, and why they moved, and why they were moved, and like just across the board. And the thing too, right? They distorted scripture. Like the whole foundation of the whole thing of church. They like messed that up
Yes.
on purpose.
Yes, it's true.
It's
And the other thing that, like, thinking about not necessarily deception, but more like focusing our attention on certain things and not other things. There was not a big emphasis on, oh, just study the Bible on your own. We usually had a study series that we were doing,
yes.
or a book that we were supposed to
Yes.
study through, or something. So that just reminded me of, our focus was always on specific scriptures and a specific spin or interpretation of those scriptures.
Yes.
There was no, like, I don't think I was ever in a situation where a couple of people would talk about what they'd been reading and then toss around, what do you think this
Yeah.
means? Or think terribly critically
No.
about anything.
No. Because it's like the same scriptures were taught to us over and over and over again, and they were just used over and over and over again. So the idea that there was any other meaning than what we had been taught was a real foreign concept to me, until I left and went to this other church. And I was like, holy crap, he's telling this story. Like, he's taking that and he's giving it's a completely different meaning. And it's a way nicer, better for me. Like, I'm not leaving feeling scared for my life. And I'm like, well, freaking what? And the other thing's really interesting is they would mock people who had gone to like seminary and who were actually like scholars. There was a lot of mocking of that.
A ton of just general anti-intellectualism.
Yes. But yeah, like the outsider versus insider doctrines.
I mean, that was to the point, it was us against everyone, to the point that regularly, even on Sunday mornings, which looking back surprises me because that's when we were supposed to be bringing visitors.
Yeah.
But regularly on Sunday mornings, we got messages about specific denominations and why they were so wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Also audacious.
Yeah. Yes. Word of the day.
Yeah, it is. Holy cow.
Yeah. It's just, and it's interesting too, right? So like another form of information control is encouraging spying on other members, which one way to do that is a buddy system, which is
one-over-one discipling. Yeah.
And again, amen. Like, oh.
And that's even, in my opinion, that's even more insidious, because what it turns out to be is not, if you're a true believer, then your discipler doesn't have to spy on you, because you're spying on yourself and you're reporting yourself on a daily basis.
Yes. which, yeah, I did that
Me too.
to an extreme, like,
Oh, Selena, you're so pure-hearted.
right,
Like, I just have to tell you everything
right,
that I may or may not have done wrong.
right. And I was like, I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to make mistakes. So I was like,
Yes.
I was so like afraid of doing anything until finally I was like, screw it. Let's go drink.
I never quite got to
I'll
that.
confess tomorrow. Actually, but then I didn't drink. I actually went out with them because like I want to go out with my friends and go dance. And I wasn't allowed to dance. I wasn't allowed to go dancing, which is one of my favorite things to do. And I remember going out with all the single ladies that I used to go to. And we actually went to Athens. And it was a Saturday night, and I was like, oh my gosh, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I have to get up and go to church tomorrow. And I had to have been staying with mom and dad because I certainly wasn't going back to the apartment. I wasn't allowed to leave to do that anyway.
Yeah.
But I remember all of my friends being so impressed that I could go out and not drink. That's how like devoted I was.
Wow.
It meant nothing to my discipleship partner. Because I went in the next day, next morning, I was like, might as well just bite the bullet and do it before church and get it over with. And then I don't remember because I know I got berated and I know it was not good. But I just like.
Let me ask you this. You may not remember, but was the default assumption that you had been drinking and like doing just by virtue of being out with worldly friends and being at a club?
It wasn't the drinking. It was the fact that I had gone out.
Like without
with
permission?
People who were not in the church without permission. And everybody knew I liked to go dancing because that was my things. And I was told I wasn't allowed to go dancing. So I got in trouble for like going out dancing with people who were not in the church. Drinking, it wasn't even a thing. Like that wasn't even a thing that came up. It was the fact that I went out without permission. I had been told not to. But I wasn't like, hey, Saturday, I want to go out. And they were like, no. It was like, through my sin study and through all my studies, this is something I don't know. Like,
it's a pressure point they could use against you is what it was.
Yeah.
How old were you when you went out and got in trouble for it?
See, I was like 21.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, right?
Now, it wasn't then. That was very normal. Then I probably been like, what are you doing, Sarah?
Right. Yes. We all know that. But I was like, hey, I might have had one drink. But I don't even know if I had one drink. I certainly didn't drink on the way there like the olden days. There was no excessive drinking. So I was like, not bad. I felt pretty good. I knew I was going to get in trouble. I knew I knew I was going to get in trouble. But I was like, I wore a shirt that covered my midriff.
I mean, really, what more can you
highly
ask for?
Intoxicated. I wasn't dancing with any guys. Like I just was having fun. Nah, it didn't matter. And I knew it wouldn't matter, but I was like, it's worth it. To me, that was worth it because they just want to steal your joy, your love for life and who you are at your core. That's what they want to rip away from you or make you think that they have, because then they can give you all the answers. We have the answers to your happiness. No, I had the answers to my happiness. But the whole bite model thing, they tear it away, and then they train you that they have the answers.
It's true.
It's so frustrating. But yeah. Oh, that's so bummer. But yeah. Oh yeah, and then the extensive use of the cult generated information, like the magazines and KNN. We'll have to do some reactions to those. Those are so bad. And they brought them back.
Oh, really? Ooh, I have to look them up.
Yeah, I'm like, still weird.
I love the good KNN.
Greetings from Manila.
Always.
From yes. Like, what the heck is up with Manila?
It's true. Like, I don't know.
Or Red China. I'm like,
yes.
Why are we like, I don't understand. And they're like, the disciples in that country, they have to meet. I'm like, I always pictured them in like the sewers because they're like, they have to meet undercover and whatever. I'm like, wow, they're really committed. Like they're studying in the sewers. I don't know if I could do that. Like, that's where my brain goes. That's really, 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 like, that's awesome. I would stand up and clap for that guy.
Definitely.
But it's like, but what's really interesting here is as newsletters, magazines, journals, audio tapes, YouTube, movies, and other media. And I'm like, are they
I have a
allowed to
shelf
be
full
on
of
YouTube?
what?
Yeah, you do have a shelf full, don't you?
Like, so we have, so yeah, the ICOC had its own publishing company.
Yes.
So I have lots of DPI
Ooh,
books. There was a tape ministry. I've got a whole bunch of tapes. Like, we were flooded with
they do. And they
with
charge you for
ICOC
every
information.
single one of
That
them.
too. Yep.
Yeah. I actually I'm pretty sure I tore the books up and threw them away because I'm like, I can't even bring myself to donate. Like, these don't need to be donated.
So I had Larry burn a bunch of them a long time ago
So
with
good. I
the
bet that felt
trash.
so good. Yeah. Did you have
But
The
then,
Lion Never Sleeps?
yes, actually, I might still have. Let me look.
That
I've
was
got
one of my
my
favorites.
shelf right here. Let me see. No Lion Never Sleeps. I've got The Victory of Surrender and I Love You, but why are we so different?
We should read it. I don't know that I ever read those.
Yeah,
I Love You,
that
but
would be
so different. We should do it in a mocking tone.
Ow, that is there any other way?
You're like, we could just sing it. We could sing all the songs. Like, we could sing the books and then that could be our intro.
Yeah.
Be not weird at all.
Swing our elbows and clap.
Right. And you do the little steps side to side too sometimes.
Yes.
But it really depended on what the people on stage were doing.
It's very true.
It's so weird. Like, you just had no autonomy whatsoever in any at all. Like, just period. And I will say the last one, so on the list of information control, Stephen Hassan has 6 main points, and each one of them has, like, it's a couple, I don't even know what I'm talking about, a couple, like, supporting points.
Yes.
I'm like, what are they called? I don't know.
Subpoints.
Subpoints. But it's unethical use of confession. So information about sins used to disrupt and or dissolve identity boundaries, withholding forgiveness or absolution, and manipulation of memory and possibly false memories. And it made me think of, that actually made me think of you with when you were pregnant.
Yes. So, and I don't know if it's necessarily, I still don't necessarily think of it as manipulation of memory, but it's definitely, I was just in a state where I didn't trust my own motives, and it was normal for me to have people question my motives. So 2 examples. One is, even like when I was back in high school and college, if I were legitimately sick and had to miss church, I would just tie myself in knots going, okay, am I really sick? Or is this really like, do I just not want to go? And so I'm making myself feel sick. I questioned my own motives and I always felt guilty.
Yes.
And then when I was pregnant, so I got pregnant about a year after I graduated from law school. And it was not planned. But around that time, there were a lot of other women in my Bible talk and in my zone who were having babies. And I wasn't even really that interested in having babies at that time. It was not my focus. But I remember talking a lot about, oh my gosh, just being encouraging and wanting to fit in and all of that, talking about, oh, they're so cute and I can't wait till we have a baby and all this stuff. So I got pregnant. I told my discipleship partner, and I don't think that this came from her. I think it came from up the chain. But I remember having discipleship time with her one evening, at her house, and she actually asked me if I had sabotaged my birth control to trick my husband into having a baby. And I was like, it wasn't even, it's funny because I was shocked at the question.
Right.
I was like, no, I did not do that.
Right.
But it got into, like, it wormed its way into my mind, and I
Mhm.
started going, well, like, maybe, I don't know, was I totally like, could that be true?
Right.
And it tainted my whole pregnancy. I felt guilty for being pregnant
So
the whole
bad.
time.
That's
And
really
like,
awful.
and it's just an example of how much undue influence was being exerted over me.
Yeah.
Because, and like, I didn't even years after I left the church, I didn't realize, I didn't come to terms with how awful and how damaging that was until I was in therapy one time. And I totally offhandedly mentioned it to my therapist, and it was like a record scratch moment. He was like, his jaw dropped. He was totally shocked. And we talked about that for a while, and he was outraged on my behalf. He was like,
good.
don't you see that no one had the right to question you about that?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that it was bad until that point.
Yes. Yeah, and it's interesting because I think we have things like that as we go through and talk about stuff. I'm like, wait, that happened to me, and I was like, I
It
didn't
was
see anything
normal.
wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought I was the problem.
Yes. And that
And
was
yeah, I was like, well, what would I have done to make the Bible Talk leader or the zone leader or whoever this came down from? What would I have done to make them believe that? And could there be some truth to it?
Yes, because from the very beginning, when you do your sin study and whatever, they're like, well, that's not all. That's not all. Are you
Mm-hmm.
sure that's what happened? Are you sure that's what was said? Are you sure that's what
Mm-hmm.
how you felt? Like, it's always this, like, instilling this doubt. Like, you can constantly doubt yourself,
You do.
and then they can step in and tell you the truth,
Mm-hmm.
which they so kindly do.
Yes, yes.
And the truth is never you're amazing, and
No, sadly.
right on
Or
track.
even just you're an okay person.
Right.
Or you're doing your best.
Right. Like, I'd settle for a but nope.
Exactly. I don't hate you, and you're probably not going to hell.
Right. I would take a probably not going to hell, because I will
Yeah.
tell
Oh
you,
my goodness. It was terrifying.
it was terrifying. And where is it? Is it emotion control? Oh, it might be with,
Mhm.
I can talk about it during emotion control. This thing. Oh gosh. Should we talk about thought control?